Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria was born on December 1, 1949, in Rio Negro, Antioquia, Colombia. He grew up in a modest family. His father was a farmer, and his mother was a schoolteacher. Despite his humble beginnings, Escobar would go on to become one of the most notorious and wealthiest criminals in history, known as the King of Cocaine. Early life and rise to power. From a young age, Escobar displayed an entrepreneurial spirit, albeit one that leaned towards the illegal. His early criminal activities included selling contraband cigarettes, fake lottery tickets, and even stealing tombstones to resell. However, it was his entry into the cocaine trade in the early 1970s that truly set him on the path to infamy. Colombia, with its proximity to coca-producing regions in Peru and Bolivia, became the perfect base for the burgeoning cocaine trade. Escobar, seeing the potential, began his operations by smuggling small amounts of cocaine into the United States. As demand grew, so did his operations. By the late 1970s, he had co-founded the Medellin cartel, which would come to control a significant portion of the global cocaine market. The Medellin cartel and Escobar's empire. At the height of its power, the Medellin cartel was responsible for smuggling an estimated 80% of the cocaine that entered the United States. This made Escobar one of the richest men in the world, with Forbes magazine estimating his net worth at $30 billion at the peak of his empire. His wealth was so immense that it said he spent around $2,500 a month just on rubber bands to hold his stacks of cash. Escobar himself once reportedly remarked that he lost about $2.1 billion a year to spoilage, rats eating the cash, or simply losing track of it. Escobar's influence extended far beyond the drug trade. He had an extensive network of informants, collaborators, and corrupt officials on his payroll, from police officers and judges to politicians. This network allowed him to operate with near impunity in Colombia for many years. The Robin Hood image, despite his ruthless business practices, which included the murder of thousands of people, Escobar cultivated a Robin Hood-like image among the poor in Medellin. He funded the construction of schools, hospitals, and housing projects for the underprivileged, earning the loyalty of many locals. This duality, being both a cold-blooded criminal and a benefactor, made him a complex and controversial figure. One of the most notable examples of his largesse was the construction of Barrio Pablo Escobar, a neighborhood in Medellin built to house those displaced by the government or by other cartels. The residents of these communities often viewed him as a hero, someone who looked after their needs when the government would not. This support provided Escobar with a base of operations and a shield against the authorities, as many locals would protect him or refuse to cooperate with police investigations. The reign of terror, violence and escalation. Escobar's success brought him into direct conflict with the Colombian government and the United States, which was increasingly concerned about the flood of cocaine into its borders. Escobar responded to any threat with extreme violence, adhering to his infamous plata o plomo, silver or lead, philosophy, meaning he would either bribe his enemies or kill them. He was responsible for the deaths of numerous politicians, journalists, judges, and police officers who opposed him. One of the most infamous acts of violence attributed to Escobar was the bombing of Avianca Flight 203 in 1989, which killed 110 people. The bombing was part of his broader campaign of terror to prevent the Colombian government from extraditing him to the United States, which he feared more than anything. Escobar also funded and armed a private army, Los Extraditables, who carried out attacks against government officials and civilians alike. The violence escalated to the point where Colombia was effectively in a state of civil war, with Escobar's forces battling both the government and rival cartels. La Catedral, the luxury prison, as pressure from the Colombian government and the U.S. mounted, Escobar struck a deal in 1991 that allowed him to avoid extradition by agreeing to surrender and serve a prison sentence. However, this was no ordinary prison. Escobar designed and built the facility himself, known as La Catedral. It was more like a luxurious resort than a prison, complete with a soccer field, a bar, a jacuzzi, and a waterfall. During his time in La Catedral, Escobar continued to run his empire with little interference. He received visitors, held parties, and even had rivals brought to the prison, where they were tortured and killed. This arrangement became an international embarrassment for Colombia, and in 1992, the government attempted to transfer him to a more conventional prison. Escobar, however, escaped before the transfer could occur, disappearing into the mountains of Antioquia. The manhunt and Escobar's downfall. After his escape, Escobar was on the run for 16 months. During this time, he was relentlessly pursued by the Colombian National Police, with significant support from the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, the CIA, and the U.S. military. The Colombian government also formed a special task force known as the Search Bloc, whose sole mission was to capture or kill Escobar. Adding to the pressure was the emergence of a vigilante group known as Los Peeps, Perseguidos por Pablo Escobar, or People Persecuted by Pablo Escobar. Los Peeps was allegedly supported by rival cartels and some members of the Colombian security forces. They embarked on a campaign of terror against Escobar's associates, killing anyone connected to him and dismantling his empire piece by piece. During his time on the run, Escobar's once untouchable status began to crumble. Many of his allies turned against him or were captured or killed. His vast fortune was depleted as he tried to evade capture, and the government seized much of his property and assets. Death and legacy. On December 2, 1993, the manhunt finally ended. Escobar was located in a middle-class neighborhood in Medellin after making a phone call to his son. The search bloc, aided by U.S. intelligence, surrounded the area. In a dramatic chase across the rooftops, Escobar was shot and killed. The details of his death remain controversial. Some claim he was killed by police, while others believe he committed suicide to avoid capture. Even in death, Escobar's legacy looms large. In Colombia, his life is a reminder of the extreme violence and corruption that plagued the country during the height of the drug wars. However, his Robin Hood image persists in some quarters, particularly among those who benefited from his largesse. His life has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and television series, most notably the popular Netflix series Narcos. Escobar's impact on the global drug trade is undeniable. His methods and the scale of his operations set a precedent for future drug cartels. Moreover, his story continues to serve as a cautionary tale about the consequences of unchecked power and the allure of wealth at any cost. The Medellin cartel may have dissolved after his death, but the drug trade continued to thrive, evolving into new forms and spreading to other regions, cementing Escobar's legacy as one of history's most infamous criminals.